things are turning around. And that's your New England Patriots. Mike Vrabel obviously doing some good things there, building up in free agency, second year of Drake Maye. The biggest question we have talked about on this show so far for the Patriots is, what are they going to do at wide receiver? Why are they, how come they haven't upgraded yet? NFL draft obviously is coming up, but there are still some veteran options in wide receiver that could be coming out of value that could help Drake Maye step up and maybe grab some more confidence in year two. They did just have former AFC East rival Stefon Diggs, who played for the Buffalo Bills for a few years, was with the Houston Texans last year. They just had him up for a visit this past weekend, and he is coming off a torn ACL. Not many people are going after him, but before his ACL injury, one of the best receivers in all of football. Now, there has seemed to be potentially some baggage that has come with Stefon Diggs in the past with whatever the drama was between Josh Allen and him. There was a reason why he wanted out of Minnesota so many years back as well. Didn't really ever seem like there was an issue in Houston. It's just the injury happened. And I don't think there was ever going to be a long-term relationship there to begin with, just because of all the other receivers they have. So obviously he has to be in a situation right now where he's probably going to grab a prove-it deal, because he has to prove that he's still a good receiver after his injury. He's aging. He's not getting any younger. He's now seen as a veteran piece. Could this be a nice pickup for the New England Patriots? And are you worried about that baggage in a locker room with Vrabel leading the charge, but with Drake Maye, a young quarterback, as the leader?
I honestly, I'm 50-50. I think this could be a really solid pickup. A player that has played a lot of years in this league, knows what it takes to win. Obviously, one of the greatest moments in the Minneapolis Miracle stands out when you look back at this guy's career. So to say that Stefon Diggs would be a terrible pickup for the Patriots, that's just incorrect. I don't think I would ever take that stance. And he's a guy that I, unfortunately, generally pick up every single year in fantasy. So for me to say that would be like super hypocritical. But on top of that, there is that element of the baggage, right? Like the very much loud kind of presence that was Buffalo. And I agree with you. Yeah, Houston was kind of a quiet stop because it felt like it was going to be really short in the injury and everything. So as far as would I like the Patriots to take Stefon Diggs in, I'm going to say yes for now. I am going to take that just because I think that is something that this team could benefit from. But my apprehensions come when you consider what happened to Mac Jones and how easily these rookie or second year or third year quarterbacks, when you put them through kind of a gauntlet early on, and it's really hard to come back from something like that. That's what makes me nervous. So you look at a really solid rookie year from Drake Maye, and then you end up in a whole, this is the drama situation with Stefon, and it's this, it's that. It's more than just football going out and playing. That's a situation I don't want to find the Patriots in. I don't want to find Drake Maye in. And I'm willing to give Stefon Diggs the benefit of the doubt at this moment in time. But I do think that that's where my let's hold on a second. Let's evaluate all our options comes from. But to, flip back and forth like I have over the last few minutes, still an unbelievable wide receiver. Like this is an option for Drake Maye to kind of be that number one guy right now, as opposed to trying to get someone through the draft.
I think even if you did get someone through the draft and you grab Diggs is your number one receiver, if healthy, going into the season. And just because of looking at the other players that you have, and it might be a 1A, 1B type of scenario, but I do think that if you did grab him, he would pick up probably the most targets. Before he got injured in Houston last year, in his 8 games, he had 64 targets. So putting that math together, he averaged 8 targets per game. If you get 8 targets per game, and he picked up 47 receptions out of those 64 targets, so not bad, pretty good. I don't know how many of those were drops or how many, whatever the case may be. I don't have that stats in front of me, but if you get, it's probably 6.5, I'd say, just doing the small math, 6.5 receptions per game out of those 8 targets from a second-year quarterback who's looking to take that step forward. You added Matt Collins, another former Buffalo Bills receiver, who we've talked about in the past, isn't going to be a wide receiver one, but can give you reliable targets and receptions as well, something that Drake Maye obviously needs. He needs guys around him that he knows if he can throw the ball and get it out, if his line can protect him, if he can have enough time to get it to them, he can know that if that target's on key, that receiver is going to catch it. And I think you get that
Yes.
Matt Collins. I think you get that with Stefon Diggs. I don't know if you get that much with anybody other receiver on the roster, and that's the problem that he had last year. I think you do
No,
have
I
to have a
agree.
revamped receiver room. And if that means adding in a couple 1-year prove it guys to say, okay, have fun, show me what you got in front of this Drake Maye quarterback, the second-year quarterback. And then if you do good, you go get paid somewhere else next year and we'll keep building the way we need to, then so be it. Because this New England team, the way that Vrabel is slowly building it back to what they hoped the dynasty was of the last 20 years, so minus the last 3 or 4, if they can find a way to get back into that, pre-Mac Jones era, then I
Yeah,
think they'll be
no,
okay.
for
And
real.
that's really what happened, right? We're going to talk about Mac Jones again in this episode. There's 2 times we're opening up Mac Jones. Crazy, right? But I do think it
First
wouldn't
time
be a
ever.
bad pickup. Every single year he was with the Buffalo Bills, and you would have thought this would have happened to the Vikings as well, but it never did. Every year he was with the Buffalo Bills, he made the Pro Bowl. All 4
Oh,
years.
really?
In
Wow.
2020, the first year he was with the Bills, he led the league in receptions, 127. He had 166 targets, actually. And he led the league in yards. He had over 1,500 yards. If you got that type of production, hell, if you just got 1,000 yards receiving from Stefon
It's a
Diggs,
huge win.
you're in a huge spot with Drake Maye. And I would love to see that happen because you obviously need to upgrade the wide receiver room. Maybe adding a veteran presence means some of these players like Jalen Polk or Demario Douglas or someone like that steps up. Maybe you get that
Agreed.
type of competition. Maybe they don't feel like there's competition right now because that team was
Yeah.
obviously in a weird situation. There's a reason why your former coach Maye only lasted 1 season before they made the change. I think they were in a desperate need for a culture change. You already have Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper as your tight ends. I think that's a great spot for them. I think your running backs, Antonio Gibson, Stevenson, those guys are great as well. If you can update that wide receiver group with a couple veteran guys, give me Diggs. Hell, give me Tyler Lockett as well. Go for both of them. Go for
Yeah.
broke.
Yeah. No,
And
I
that's
would
not
take
even broke.
Lockett.
Those are both 1-year deals.
That's the thing is I think a lot of people are there's a lot of conversation around the baggage. And like, oh, Stefon Diggs is this big name. How many years, how much are the Patriots spending on him? I think this really is a prove it year type of
For sure. It has to
situation.
be.
And obviously this is, just per Twitter. But there seems to be no urgency at this point. I think both sides are willing to kind of take a look and say like, hey, we're willing to approve it. Is that something that like, do you want to be here? And that's a situation that I would like this to, kind of culminate into. I wouldn't want the Patriots to throw $35 million at Diggs and then he's like, fine, I'll come, whatever. You're paying me a ton of money. And then he's pissed off 3 weeks into the season. Like, he wants to be here. We'll pay you, and if you're successful, it's kind of an incentive loaded deal, if you will, with some solid guarantees up front, however it might look. And if that's how it works out, great. I think that's a great way for this to go. And last point I'll make here is that per Savage on Twitter, Stefon Diggs is now following Drake Maye and Jason Tatum, 2 absolute massive Boston names. And of course, one being his quarterback. So something worth looking at there if you're actually diving in deep into the Stefon Diggs to New England saga, or I guess just kind of conversations, not really a saga at this point. But it's a pickup that I wouldn't hate. And I do think that the way that it's shaping up with like, hey, you come in, let's have a conversation. Let's kind of take our time with this, see where everyone's sitting. I'd rather it go that way than like, don't let him leave the building, pay him $85 million, and all of a sudden he's pissed off because, yeah, you got paid a lot, but he's never getting the ball.
You went from 35 million to 85 million. Let's get some of these numbers maybe more realistic here real fast. The Houston Texans, when they traded with the Buffalo Bills to get Diggs, they actually voided out some of his years, and he wound up only having a 1-year contract for about $22 million. Now, when he was with the Vikings, he was making about $14 million per year back then. According to Spot Track, his projected market value is an average annual salary of $13.7 million. So if you gave him a 1-year, $14 million deal, I mean, if I'm the Patriots, I would give that deal to Stefon Diggs. I think that's a great
fair
deal
number.
in this market. I think that is a really good number as well. $14 million for a Pro Bowl player, for a guy who has already been in this spot with a young quarterback. He did it with Josh Allen in your division.
Yes.
Could be
That'd
a
be a
good
fun
sign.
revenge game too. It would.
And if it's a 1-year deal and it doesn't work out, if the baggage becomes too much, I'll say this multiple times on this show, but this is the first time you get to hear it from me. There's not a 1-year deal I don't like.
Oh,
There's not a 1-year deal I don't like, because if you don't like it, you can release them. You've already paid the money. The guarantee's already there.
yeah.
Move on. If you're building a culture and something doesn't work and you're only connected to them for 1 year, that means you're connected to them until you want to get rid of them. You
Yeah.
can move on from at week 6, week 8. It doesn't matter. Once he
That's
becomes
a
a problem,
much-
if that happens, I'm not saying it does, but if it does, there's not a 1-year deal I don't like. There's no risk. Once you sign that contract, the risk is over.
That's a much better situation to find yourself in than the Browns right now. I mean, that's a long-term deal with a lot of money involved that they are working through at this point versus, let's bring in a guy for a year, see how it goes. I agree with you completely. Just play it kind of by ear, and if you outperform, we'll bring you back. No problem with that.
Nothing wrong with that as well. Absolutely. I mean, if you find a way to get the New England Patriots in the playoffs,
Playoffs?
I'm just saying, if you find a way to do that and you're one of the reasons and you get yourself back to the Pro Bowl,
Boom.
probably won't be on the Patriots next year, but you'll have yourself say big time pay somewhere else. I mean, that's
Agreed.
absolutely possible.
100%.